I'm Jay Harding. I'm author of Ubers, and I love this podcast.
My name is Joe Rubis. I'm the author of Pocket Full of Fear, and I am one sick, twisted individual.
Hi, my name's Lee Taylor. I'm the author of the urban fantasy book Bound. I like the sound of my own voice, so let's get this thing rolling. I wasn't really that blown away by the stand. I mean, there was parts of the stand that I really enjoyed, and I don't think it was the parts that I think that were supposed to be that well enjoyed. Like the general grind of it or whatever. I like there's certain parts of it with where he's trying to push things along with the characters, and some of the ideas and decisions that he decides to make while writing, I think, it's kind of annoying, to be honest with you. Some of the characters that he decides to kill, or spoiler alert. Although I suppose it's been out for a while.
Now, Lee, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go for it.
Have you been cramming this book? Because you sound like you haven't slept in days.
No. No, character development, I think, like a pretty important role in every single book, and obviously in The Stand, Stephen King really tries to go that extra mile. I mean, because obviously he introduces that many characters to begin with, but he gets to a point in the book where you can see that he's changing the pace, which is fine because you've got the whole past, present, and like the future, like what's going to be actually happening with all the characters, and like results of the fruits of the labour, as it were. But he still makes them make really bizarre decisions, which I'm still trying to get behind. Like there's a scene where they all decide to vote to send the again, spoiler alert, like the mentally challenged Tom Cullen.
MOON.
Yeah, MOON. Yeah, that spells Tom Cullen. MOON. Where they decide to send him to obviously infiltrate Flag's organization just to see what's going on. And he like even tells them, he's like, yeah, no, he's Legion. He's one of the many or whatever. And they're all like, okay, yeah, well, we're gonna have to send him. It's our only choice. And it's like, well, no, it's not your only choice. It's a pretty bizarre choice, but okay. But ultimately, by sending Tom Cullen, that's obviously set things up to save Stu later on in the book. You know, after what happens to them. Go back over the Stand in all fairness, in case there's anything that I've missed. Because to be honest with you, I wasn't come the end of the book when obviously they're exchanging words or whatever, or towards the end of the book when Stu and what's her name, Franny, there you go, Francis.
Fran, yeah.
They're exchanging words about what's going to happen. It's like, I don't know. And I
That's it. Yeah,
was
that's
just
it.
thinking, I don't know. I mean, there was so much build-up. I mean, one of the things that I really enjoyed about The Stand was the emotional build-up with Lloyd Henreid. I thought that was quite cool, like how he got trapped in, well, how he was in prison, he was starving, and he considered cannibalism, and then he obviously eventually was forced into the situation where he did. I found it really endearing. You know, you kind of root for the bad guys. Same sort of thing with Harold Lauder, where obviously you can see where he's going through and how much he cared for this girl, Franny, but she just wasn't reciprocating the same feelings, and so he was looking for some sort of emotional outlet, and then he found her diary, and then he started coming up with a plot. And then obviously he fucking, there's no need to swear, that he killed Nick Andros, which, you know, I didn't believe that Nick had to die, but maybe I'm just a big sap like that.
Right.
And then obviously he was still looking for repentance. I mean, there was a while, there was a scene when he was on work detail when he first got the nickname Hawk, when they started referring to him as Hawk. And you could see that he was starting to actually enjoy life, and you could understand that he could be like a valued member of the community. Up until Rita comes along and she's like, hey, what's up? I'm crazy. Yeah, let's do this thing. And then obviously that's not what she's like at all. She's much more grim after getting turned down by Larry Underwood from her sexual advances.
Right.
And then obviously she's like the, well, I don't know, it's kind of used quite a lot on media of how women can just like whisper a word of a promise, an unspoken promise or whatever, and suddenly the guy's willing to do some stupid shit for him. But one thing I did notice, completely off topic of everything, is that I believe sincerely that Stephen King, this could be like an expose, there could be legal ramifications on this because he might want to keep this private, but I generally believe that Stephen King has a fetish with urination. Plain and simply. I mean, there is multiple scenes in that book where he depicts either a guy sitting down soiling himself, he made wee in his pants, which is actually like verbatim. He urinated, he peed himself, he felt the sensation, he stood up and he dropped his trousers as he like stumbled over to the basin and began to release himself for what felt like an hour. There's a lot of urination going on in that book. I'm not sure whether it's like, oh, that's realistic. But I mean, so like some of the situations going on there, like the trash can man and the kid. There was also a rather interesting scene, which apparently was edited out of the original, but was just like referred to, or whatever. Which was one of the nights when they're staying in a motel after, one too many drinks. He's like, I see you looking at me. And like trash can man's like, what? Of course I'm looking at you. You sat right across from me. What are you talking about? And he's like, I think you need to get up on here. And he's like, what? Oh, okay, all right, fine. And so he starts to. I think he was performing fellatio on the kid, and then
I think he was jacking him off.
yeah, he was. Oh yeah, that's right. He was jacking him off, and he was talking about like the sensation of it, and then the kid turns around by shoving a 45 up his arsehole and rapes him. And I was like, yeah, well, that'd be an interesting way to go. You talk about being filled with hot lead. That would be a completely different kind. And I was like, Jesus Christ. And it was one of those things where I wasn't, I'm not saying that I felt uncomfortable reading it, I just didn't think it was necessary. It's like, right, well, we get it, the guy's crazy. But, I mean, it's one of those things where, like, the trash can man, he changed quite a lot. I mean, obviously you could say that each character develops, which is fine, it's a good thing. The character grows, yay! But, I mean, literally, trash can man changed from one scene to the next. Where one moment he'll be quite consumed with, just like the sensation or the feeling of that he wants to set fire to everything. Which, is cool. Fire's pretty, I understand that, rock on. And the next scene, he's crawling on his hands and knees, terrified of this guy who's clearly insane. And it's like, well, why, just set him on fire? Isn't that how you solve things? what's the dealio? And then
Yeah, I don't think I could ever be as graphic as that.
What, jacking off another guy whilst having a gun shoved up your arsehole?
Yeah, I don't think I could ever be that graphic. But wait till you guys read some more.
What are you talking about? I was going to say, you're saying, how could I be that graphic? No, not at all. I was just like, Jay, I believe you're telling porcupines, my friend.
Well, you know that I don't know if you're aware of this, Lee, but Joe, you probably know that Stephen King actually wanted to um, create a Lord of the Rings type story in an American setting. Did you know? Did you know that?
Yes. I've heard
Yeah.
several quotes from him about that.
No, however.
I believe it's Lord of the Rings with an American backdrop.
Yeah. Do you think? Do you guys think that he pulled it off, or no?
Personally, I do. I think that The Stand was a success in that regard. It was a sweeping epic. It encompassed every sort of genre, every sort of emotion or reaction you could think of. There's romance, there's horror, there's suspense, there's adventure, and especially the end where the characters set off across the wasteland to go and confront the evil lord, so to speak. I think that really harkens back to Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it's almost like a Mordor type moment when I think that who goes there? Glenn Bateman Stu Redman, Ralph, and
Larry Underwood.
Yes.
And they got a dog, Kojak, too.
You can't
They
him.
went there, and they're taking hostage. I think Glenn Bateman is the one that gets shot, and then
Yeah.
right when Flag is about ready to kill the rest of them,
Trash Can Man.
my life for you, Trash Can Man shows up.
Rolled into town looking like a cheese pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah, just thanks to
And
radiation poisoning.
Yeah, he's somehow able to search out weapons of mass destruction. And then, it's one of the only parts that I really didn't understand in the story. I kind of thought it was a little forced. Was that Flag attempted to silence somebody magically, and somehow it was transformed into a giant glowing hand, the hand of God, and it detonated the bomb. And it killed all of the Flag's people, and with Larry and Ralph.
That was just supposed to be it. I mean, the part that made him realise that everything was going to shit was basically when he realised he couldn't control every single outcome. Like when, what do you call it, Rita, she forced her into committing suicide. Actually, no, Dana forced him. Dana committed suicide. She cut her throat, but Rita did a similar thing by getting thrown off the building.
And then the judge, he was shot, and Flag did not apparently foresee that.
Yeah, no, he said, don't harm him or whatever, until the guy shot him, and then the other dude shot the guy that shot him, and then he killed him anyway, or something.
Yeah.
It was don't mark the head. He
Yeah.
wanted to send the head back over the mountains of Boulder.
Yeah.
Psychological warfare, but they shot him in the head and destroyed it.
That Stephen King actually tried to keep Flag alive. There's I'm trying to find the thing here.
Oh, you're talking about where after the explosion he wakes up on like a Polynesian island or something?
Yes.
Is that what it was? Yeah.
And that links into his Dark Tower series, I suppose, because Flag's a character there as well.
Yes. Now, have either of you read? Lee, The Stand's the only book you've ever read of Stephen King's, right?
Yes, that's correct. I haven't even read it.
Yeah. Now, Joe, have you read the Dark Tower series?
Yes, I have.
All right. Now, the whole thing about Ka, if you know what I'm talking about, it reminds me of nothing more than just karma,
Basically.
Yeah.
Goes around, comes around. The Wheel of Ka. I actually thought the Dark Tower series was stupid. I did not like it. The only reason I read
it was very difficult.
The only reason I read it is because he made so many references to it in actually the novel of his Rose Madder. There was a section where a woman steps into a painting and it's some sort of Romanesque, Middle Earth, whatever you call it. And I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand most of a lot of the stuff that was in the book, like his references to Ka, the Wheel of Ka, blah blah blah. So I finally said, you know what? Apparently, I'm going to have to read this stupid series just so I can understand his work anymore, and that really agitated me.
Yeah, well, see, it didn't start out very well. He got a couple of the episodes out, and then there was a span of like over a decade before he wrote the next one. And
what I really hated was in the later books, he incorporated himself as a character.
That sounds interesting.
Well, the old saying that a man who represents himself in court has a fool for a client.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was going to say that I don't think that I would ever do that, but I think that in every story that I've written, I always throw a little bit of me in somebody, something that I know is just between me and that character that we share. But I don't know. I tend to think that Stephen King went a little overboard. I think that by creating The Stand, he's somehow in the Dark Tower trying to um, uh, trying to create something even bigger than that,
Yeah.
And I don't think that it's possible. I don't know.
What's like the main genre of the Dark Tower? What's it supposed to be about?
Fantasy, I guess. It's set in this, what would you call it, Jay? Like a different dimension. I wouldn't even know how to properly explain it, but it's a fantasy along the lines of The Lord of the Rings or something like that.
Okay,
Oh,
so it's not like in modern times. It's like generally like back in.
It jumps back and forth between our world, or many variations of our world, and their world, which is called, I want to say Middle Earth, but that's in Lord of the Rings, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it flashes back and forth, like in the second book, the character, the gunslinger, goes from, he's on this beach, on this, like endless sea, and then he goes through these doors to gather people to help him reach the Dark Tower, and one is I think she's a schizophrenic black woman living in 1960s Chicago, and the other is a heroin addict living in the New York of the 1980s. It's weird.
By the sound of it, I think it's fairly safe to assume that J.J. Abrams was influenced with it and created Lost as a result.
Yes, Lost actually was based or inspired in part by The Stand. The creators, Abrams, yeah, has has come out and said that several times.
Well, that's a shame. Well, now I like The Stand even less, even though I just read it. I wasn't really one of those that ever got caught by the whole Lost bug. I mean, I watched the first TV series and I thought it was absolutely phenomenal. I was like, this is without doubt the greatest television series of all time. And then, like the second series came out and I missed like a couple of episodes and I was like, oh, I just need to catch up. Anyway, that kept on stretching out and stretching out and stretching out. And then, the last episode got aired and, yeah. I touched on that last week about endings that like leave a bad taste in your mouth. Yeah, that was one of them. And I'm being incredibly polite at the moment. I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe if I have another coffee, I'll just start raring up. But yeah, no, I wasn't impressed. Did you guys watch the series Lost? What did you think of the ending?
I've never seen Lost. I remember it was bigger than Jesus for a while, but I never really got into it.
Lost was one of the greatest TV series I've ever seen in my life. It was so mythological. It was so deep on so many different levels. It was like I don't know. I think it was TV's version of Lord of the Rings. I mean, it was just phenomenal. If you followed it, and saw it, I was just I was a little disappointed at the very end, the last episode. But at the same time, I don't know how they could have ended it any other way. By having all the people there that had died. And,
Spoiler alert.
it was weird.
Well, I agree with your analogy that it was like Lord of the Rings, because both of the endings made me want to get up and punch someone. It made me want to walk out into
Yes.
the street, pick up a kitten, and just to set it on fire. You know, that's how you teach a cat how to bark. Just so you know. Anyway, yeah, no, I really wasn't impressed because, like Lord of the Rings, there's that whole scene at the end where they're like, right, well, yeah, so Mr. Frodo, what are you gonna do now? I don't know, Sam. I've put the ring in the fire. Now we're fucked. And then an eagle swoops in, takes them, and they fuck off, and everyone's happy, and oh, they did it. Yeah, the heroes are returning home to Hobbiton. It's like, right, hang on a second. What? Like, you could just imagine it in midair. It's like, where did this eagle come from? Oh, Gandalf sent it. Right? So why did we have to walk all the way across Mordor, go through all that ordeal, have my fingers bitten off, and go through all this when I could have just flown over and dropped it in? I don't know. Why don't you ask him? A wizard moves in mysterious ways. Fuck you, asshole. I've just been tortured, alright? Months of my life I've been, like, fucking to within an inch of my life. I nearly starved to death, okay? I've been driven to the limits of my sanity, and you just fucking send an eagle at the last moment? What's wrong with you? It's the same sort of thing with Lost. Like, you get yourself invested, and you see all these, well, they start off with, like, flashbacks, where you get to know some about the backstory of the characters, and you're like, aww. Oh, they're quite nice, yeah. Oh, he's my favourite. Oh, he's pretty badass. Oh, he had it rough beforehand. And then they do flash forwards. And you're like, oh, well, they get
Yeah.
off the island. They didn't explain how to get off the island to begin with. Okay, that's fine. And then, like, the writers are like, right, well, we've done flashbacks. Yep. We've gone flash forwards. Yep. This is going to freak you out a bit. What if we go flash sideways and just have, like, alternate realities? Right. Why? Well, why not? Okay, good point. And that's it, they carried on. But I mean, they invest so much time and so much money in the entire plot, and it's to get to such a result. Like one of my friends, he said, "Oh, I've never watched Lost. What do you recommend?" And I said, "Right, it's simple. There's 2 episodes you have to watch." And he was like, "Oh, what's that?" And I said, "The first episode." And he goes, "Yeah." And I go, "And the last episode of the last series." That way, it won't fucking matter. You won't be heartbroken by the end of it. You'll just be like, oh, you know what, that was pretty good. Yeah, no, that was like a motion picture. You know?
Now, speaking of J.J. Abrams, did you catch his newest series, Alcatraz, on Fox over here in the U.S.? I don't know what it is over there.
Alcatraz.
No, but I want to
No,
see it.
is that the one with Sam Neill and
Yes, yes.
I don't know. I think the girl was in The Faculty, and she was also in like a Buffy episode and everything else.
It lasted one season. It was canceled back in, I think, June.
Right.
May, like that. I actually liked it. It was a very good show. Very interesting premise.
About like inmates going missing, coming back, and carrying on what they were doing beforehand.
Basically, there were more layers than that, and the action took place. It switched between the modern day where they're trying to find these inmates and the Alcatraz of 1960, 1961.
Yeah.
And those scenes were very, very fascinating for historical nerds like myself.
Right. Well, I watched like a few episodes there on like the English Sci-Fi Channel random times, I believe, but I've never really invested a lot of time into it. I mean, I have started watching that new J.J. Abrams show, and I think the first episode was directed by Jon Favreau or something, and that was that Revolution, or Revolution. Have you guys seen that?
No, I've heard of it. I mean, it seems really good.
Yeah, it started last Monday.
Post-apocalyptic premise to it.
Yeah, exactly. Something else that was probably inspired by The Stand. But yeah, no, it's America. It's in like the modern day, or it's now like 15 years in the future, because it doesn't really go into details to explain it. You just kind of see what happens and you accept it. That there's some sort of device or some sort of computer program, and it like gets rid of like all the electricity in the world, and everything shuts down. Airplanes come crashing out of the sky, hospitals break down, like not just like electricity, but everything, like absolutely everything that's connected just completely disintegrates. And you're like, okay. And then it fast forwards to 15 years in the future, and everyone's like living in their neighborhood still, but it's all overgrown, and people are like trying to make allotments in suburbia, you know, and there's like a militia going around, and people are coveting like, for some reason they're really like big fans of like compound crossbows. That's like a big thing in the future apparently, so keep an eye out for that.
There's a novel like
What's
that.
What's it called?
Revolution.
Revolution or
Revolution. Oh yes. I'm sorry. I'm only getting about every 2 or 3 words at a time with you from you guys. But yeah, Revolution. I just saw it tonight. It starts. Well, it just said starting this fall. I don't know. Do you know when it starts?
Yeah, it's on Monday nights.
I forget who it's by, but he's a real big sword and sorcery fantasy author. And basically, he used that as an excuse to set sort of like medieval, again, sword and sorcery in the modern day. Like, I thought I couldn't make it the first novel. It was absolutely terrible. But he wrote an entire series, and everything modern just kaput, including guns and things like that. So his characters were using swords and crossbows, and basically they regressed to a medieval society, and it was
Yeah.
just stupid.
What that takes us into steampunk. What do you guys know about steampunk?
A little bit. It's about, like, if things would have gone different during the Industrial Revolution, in which case you still get, like, advanced or fantastical objects that have been created to enhance the body or whatever, or gadgets and gizmos. People with, like, clockwork everything, you know?
Yeah, I've never really understood steampunk.
Is that sort of like that one movie with Kevin Kline and Will Smith?
What, Wild Wild West? Yeah, kind of.
Yes,
Where you get, like, the
that's it.
whole
Yeah,
steam powered everything in
yeah,
the future, yeah. Only
yeah.
it's like, people see it more, well, some people, I'm not sure what brought the movement on. I could do some reading into it and try and find out, but honestly, it doesn't hold that much interest with me. I mean, when I think of like as something steampunk or like technology wise, like I think of an anime I saw from Studio Ghibli called Steam Boy, which is about it's like 1901 or whatever, and it's about these giant war machines or something made, and it's all steam powered and everything. And it was really quite an endearing and powerful movie.
So
But
basically, it's sort of like alternate history.
yeah, pretty much like different, changing certain things. I'm not sure whether it's Kingdom Brunel or whatever has a big role in it. I'm not sure
Have
who
you
like
guys ever read an alternate history novel?
I think I started reading Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer once, but I think that's about it as far as alternate history.
There's a writer out there called his name's Harry Turtledove, and he's written just that's his bread and butter. That he only writes alternate history, and he has a very intriguing series about the Civil War. If the South had won the Civil War, and the first book takes place, I believe, in 1882, basically 20 years after the war ended, and it pictures a divided America. And he also did a standalone novel called The Guns of the South, in which these racist time travelers go back to I think it was 1864, and they give Robert E. Lee and his army AK-47s, and of course they handily defeat the Northerners, and from there it's basically uninteresting, but the first half of the book is very, very fascinating in his depictions of the alternate history and how things changed in a point of divergence.
Now, I don't know if either one of you have read this, but Stephen Heinlein, or Robert Heinlein, the science fiction writer, he wrote Starship Troopers, of which the movie was made, and also Stranger in a Strange Land. He's written that he just died about 10 years ago. Wrote dozens and dozens of stories, but he liked to create alternate histories and explore them through the science fiction genre. For instance, he had this one ship. It was an intelligent ship by the name of Dora. She was very flirtatious, the ship was. And she actually had this drive in her that would allow her to go six to the sixth power to the sixth power alternate universes. And he spelled it out. He put all the zeros behind it. It was like a whole page on a book page of how many alternate universes there were. And he described places where there was Earth, and you went there, and everything was the exact same as what we know Earth as, except they had no letter T. Or there was another alternate Earth that had been just a little bit closer to the sun, and because the planet was 20 degrees warmer throughout history, people walked around without their clothes on, and they had been doing that since the dawn of man because there was no cold. They didn't have to worry about it.
Right.
It was fascinating all that, and he also wrote about I think it was him or someone else wrote about how you could go back in time and view the time of Jesus. And there were so many. It was like copies of a copy of a copy of a copy. They had tour groups that would go back, and they would actually be there. They could interact with it, but it didn't change the future at all. And Hyland was a genius. He wrote most of his stuff in the 30s and 40s, and he's the one from his book Stranger in a Strange Land. He wrote about this device that space travelers would sleep in when they got back to Earth until they got their Earth legs back. And he fashioned this device in one of his books, and an engineer went, "Ooh, that sounds good," and so the waterbed was born. But yeah, if you guys like science fiction at all, I would recommend Robert Heinlein. And alternate reality was like his forte.
Now, see, whenever I think of alternate reality, I think of the is it Jerry O'Connell show, Sliders. That's one of the first things that pops into my head, like with all the different scenarios and situations going through. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I have to admit, it got a bit weird when he got his brother, but I still stuck with it. And
Isn't that what happens to a series? A series can be fantastic, but then it's like they must run out of ideas, or they're like, wow, we got to do something because we've set the bar so high. What else is there? And they reach the limit of their imagination.
They call that jumping the shark.
Well,
jumping the shark.
If you look at a lot of the recent television programs that have been really quite successful recently, a lot of them, they've all had the same sort of like writing cast from, you'd swear, where they had the same sort of issues going on, but with different characters. Like, I don't know if any of you guys have been watching the TV series True Blood, the recent series that was shown in America and it's just starting to be shown in the UK, or it's going to be shown in October. It's basically like the vampires and them dealing with their religion, which is to this like vampire goddess called Lilith. And like she's like the first vampire or whatever, or the true vampire, and there's all these like fantastical, historical, religious aspects to it. And I was thinking, right, well, they didn't really need to bring that into the show. I mean, how it's already laid out, they could have taken it in a completely different direction. But I mean, it wasn't the only show that's done it. I mean, the season 2 of The Walking Dead, I mean, that had a huge, like, religious aspect to it as well, where, like, in the first episode, obviously, Andrew Lincoln, he's standing there and he's there talking about, God give us a sign, and then the deer gets shot, and the bullet goes through and hits Carl, and it's like, right, well, there's a sign for you. Jesus. And then, there was another show that finished, again, it was the same season, like, it was aired around the same time, which is obviously Dexter. And in that season, it was, I don't know if you guys have ever watched the series Dexter, but it's absolutely brilliant, based on the book that Jeff Lindsay wrote. And in this series, he was also faced with religion, where obviously, why is he doing this? Why is he still killing? Should he consider repenting for his sins? And one of the people that he comes across is a guy who's like a born-again Christian or whatever, and he's all about forgiveness, but he gets murdered anyway. And the guy that's going around killing people is doing it with like these prophesized like apocalyptic visions of like the day of reckoning or whatever. And it's there's just been a lot of religion in media recently, and it's just I don't know. I mean,
well, there really has been in the last few years a revival of religious fervor, and if you look throughout the history of the world, you'll see that religion is much like the stock market. You'll have resurgence. You'll have a great influx of religion and spirituality, and then it'll go back down again. Then it'll come back up again, and all of a sudden seems like half the world is uniting with great revelations, and then it falls into, it's almost like there's a war between science and religion. And that goes right to the heart of what that TV show 24 was about. Are we going to create our own world? Are we going to trust our own devices, or are we products of our fate? And those are just different variations. All these things are just different variations of that, And there was a TV show in the States here called Jericho.
Yeah.
And
that was a very good show.
Yeah, and it only lasted 2 seasons. And that was really sad.
The best shows get canceled.
It was almost as if the government said, "Oh, you shouldn't be learning this much about how to survive without us, so we're shutting you down." That's the first thing I thought of when it was done. It was that, wow, it was getting too real. But then I'm an old conspiracy nut anyway, so.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of the TV series, unfortunately, even if the show's doing remarkably well, sometimes they'll think, right, well, you've run your course. I mean, if you look at the writer Joss Whedon, he's done a remarkable job in some of the TV series and films that he's worked on. But for every single time he'll do something great, he'll do something atrocious as well. Like, if you look at the commercial success of the TV series Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Now, before he did Buffy the Vampire Slayer, he did a movie, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, with Luke Perry, Kirsty Swanson, and Donald Sutherland. And that film was, it was incredibly bad. There's no way of sugarcoating it. But obviously...
You mean Donald Sutherland was in something that was bad?
Yeah, no, it was not only bad, but it was embarrassing. I mean, I'm pretty sure if you ever met Donald Sutherland and you said, "Oh, I absolutely loved you in Buffy the Vampire Slayer," he'd probably punch you out. He'd just turn around and just drop kick you or something, and you'd deserve it too. if you said it to him. I mean, it was really bad. I mean, he played his role well, of course, but the film was just terrible. But I mean, there's other things like, obviously, one that everyone's going to be screaming right now is Firefly. Firefly was one of the shows. They got 14 episodes in when the network decided to cancel. I'm not entirely sure why, whether they had like other shows they had like scheduled for the time, but in which case they gave all the, what do they call it? They got rid of Nathan Fillion, Gina Torres, Alan Tudyk.
He's doing that again.
Yeah, I do that sometimes, so I apologise.
Anyway,
but then obviously, due to like the fan uproar of them going completely freaking crazy, like, "What are you doing? I was really enjoying the show, you stupid ass." Well, with the whole space cowboy thing, which I really like. But again, that's thanks to an anime. Apparently I'm a bit of a nerd, or a geek, but I'm a big geek, so I can get away with it. Anyway, so obviously they did the TV series, they did the film Serenity, which was absolutely superb.
Yes.
But then he carries on, like obviously he wrote Toy Story, and he was involved in another TV series which came out the other year with Eliza Dushku, who you might remember from, she was in Series 3 Buffy the Vampire Slayer, as well as spin-off Angel occasionally. And that was a TV series called Dollhouse. And in Dollhouse Series 1, it was really, really good. I mean, it was absolutely fantastic. And then Season 2, it was almost as if Joss Whedon was like, yeah, to be honest with you, I was kind of expecting to get cancelled after the first 12 episodes, so I don't know what to do now. And then he got cancelled anyway. And that was it at the end of the TV series. And I was thinking, poor Joss Whedon. But then this year alone, he's managed to redeem himself with the Avengers and friggin' the Cabin in the Woods.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And now I gotta let you guys know that just in this one conversation that we've had, it seems apparent to me that Lee, you are the TV god of us three.
He's a geek.
You've seen the interesting, the banal, the fascinating. You're an encyclopedia of TV, and I don't know about the screen or not, but Joe, I think you are a savant when it comes to horror myself. I don't know if that's correct or not, but
I think it's pretty close.
I think
yeah,
that's a
whenever I
compliment.
have
I've never heard someone call
yeah,
a savant horror before.
yeah, I really look forward to reading Dracula. Is that 1912?
Yes,
Yeah.
Dracula 1912.
Yes, yes.
It's set before the Titanic, so that's going to be really fun.
Oh, you know what? From the moment I met, yeah, Joe, from the moment I met you, I found out that you were a huge Titanic fan, and now you've managed to put Dracula and the Titanic together. That is wonderful.
Well, in Joe's defense, he was really pissed off with Kate Winslet and how she let go of Jack's hand at the last moment, so...
Yeah, come on. There was room for both of them on that door.
Exactly, so he sent Dracula back there to set things straight.
Well, he had to actually go underwater so that in the future he could catch the what was that thing that she threw in the water, the diamond of the sea or whatever it was.
Heart of the ocean.
The what? The star of the ocean?
Heart of the ocean.
Heart of the ocean.
Yes.
Okay. Oh. Yeah, I saw it the first time I saw it. I thought it was like, okay, this is kind of cool, especially how they did the recreations. But the best part in the whole movie was when the band was playing as the ship was going down.
Yes, that's probably my favorite part too.
It's been another gentleman.
But it's been done better in other Titanic movies.
Now, I kind of wanted to cover The Stand. I also wanted to talk a little bit.
Yes, I'm quite happy to get back to The Stand.
No. Yeah, well, yeah, we can do that too. But have you guys, either one of you guys, ever seen the TV series called Inside the Actor Studio?
I've seen a few episodes here and there.
I believe so. Yeah, I think I've caught a few episodes. Well, I say episodes. I mean, it's like I've caught a few interviews.
But at the end of every episode, there is these questions that are asked. I'm trying to find it here. Of course, now that I'm looking for it, I'll not find it. I'll have to close out 15.
I can hear you flipping through paperwork.
Oh, no. Oh, well, that's right. I actually have a folder called Dark Whispers. Let me see. Here it is. Okay. There's a questionnaire called the Proust questionnaire by the French television personality Bernard Pivot on his show Apostrophes. And the questions, there's 10 questions that have become quite famous now, like, what is your favorite word? What is your least favorite word? What turns you on? What turns you off? What sound or noise do you love? What sound or noise do you hate? What's your favorite curse word? What profession other than yours would you like to attempt? And what profession would you not like to? And if that's just what would you like to hear God say when you come to the gate? I've created my own, and I call it the Harding questionnaire for Dark Whispers. And if it's all right with you, I'm going to go ahead and ask these questions of you guys and give your honest answers. And if it's all right, I'd like to, when we invite and interview other writers to Dark Whispers, After we break them through the coals and back, I'd like to ask them these 10 questions. Does that sound cool?
Yeah, sounds fine.
Sure.
All right, now.
Providing it's not what's your address. As long as that's not one of the questions. What's your address? Where do you live? What time do you leave the house?
What are you wearing?
Yeah. Hey, that's a pretty
Here's
normal question.
First question. First question is, what would you like inscribed on your headstone or urn?
Okay, Joe, do you want to answer this one first?
Let me think a second. I would probably like something witty. There was a book out there that it was like a history of graves and memorials and things like that. It sounds dull, but it was actually interesting. This one person had a poem put on their grave, on their headstone, and it was this I think it was religious in nature or something kind of what you'd expect to find in a cemetery. But the first letter of each word.
Oh, it said "fuck you."
Yep.
Yes, I saw that. That's actually called that type of poetry is actually called not the "fuck you," but the first letter down is called acrostic poetry, and that turns out to be now I gotta let y'all know that unless you challenge me, I'm the poet master. I know all about poetry, and that acrostic poetry is one of my favorite forms of all time because you can say something without saying something, and it's not always the first letter of the line. It can also be the first and last letter of each line, or it can be backwards, or it can be scrambled up. And that's always fascinated me how writers can, the really good writers can have like cryptic messages inside their story, and that, they give you clues down the road, not saying, I've written this cryptic message, but, for people to find it, someday.
Kind of like listening to an Ozzy Osbourne album backwards.
Yeah, yeah. Or have the first word of every chapter. If you write it all out, it says something like diabolical or something. But now I digress. Lee, what would you like inscribed on your headstone or urn? Well, actually, Joe, you never did answer. Or did you just say you want something?
He started to, hint hint, but someone got excited.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'd like something like that on my grave.
Something that sounds really cool, but on the side it's like up your ass or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Lee, you've had time to think.
Yes. To be honest with you, I'll probably have some. I'll try and say something a bit odd, like they buried me against my will, or if you're reading this, I'm going to haunt you. Or just something menacing, like I know where you live, and that'll be it. It will say Lee Taylor, birth 1987, death whenever, and then underneath that, I know where you live, or I'll see you in your dreams, or I'll see you in your nightmares, or something. I wouldn't want it to be like boring. I wouldn't want it to be like he was a loving father, he was a beloved husband, he was an arsehole. There was a line I heard in a play once. It was a rendition of Frankenstein that I saw at the Old Vic Theatre in Bristol, which is oddly enough where Patrick Stewart came from. Just a little bit of a hint, just a little bit of information tidbit there. But there was a line in it, and I've had it. It was such a line that it's been stuck in my head ever since. And the line goes something along the lines of. He was doing it to save your soul. He was doing it to save my soul. He was doing it to save our souls. And that line's just been stuck in my head ever since I heard it then.
I'm sure that's profound in some level.
No, arseholes as in arseholes.
Oh, arseholes. Oh, I guess that's a British thing. Okay.
Yeah, it's British humour, unfortunately, but it's I don't know, that whenever I hear anyone talking about, I did it for you, I did it to save your soul, I did it to save my soul, I did it to save arseholes, and it's just like brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it wouldn't fly. It wouldn't fly in America. I did it to save assholes.
Yeah. Well,
Now here's the next question. What, if anything, terrifies you?
okay, I'll go for this one because I'll let Joseph go first on the last one. Right, what terrifies me, plain and simply, is anything that hurts my kids. But like when one of my kids has a cold, I want to have the cold. I don't want them to suffer at all. One of my kids wakes up and they said I've got an earache, and it's like I wish I could take that earache from you, and I would burden all of your ailments just so that you could just be peaceful and happy always. That's what terrifies me. Not funny, I know, but
no, it doesn't have to be funny. Now, that would be an interesting alternate reality where parents have the option. They can take whatever happens to their children upon themselves, and so the children basically have they can have a stress-free childhood, but as soon as they have a child, it's their turn.
yeah,
That'd be kind of a cool idea.
I reckon that could be really cool, but I reckon there's some big ramifications of having such a power, and one of those would be for women giving birth. They're like, hey, honey, come here a second, I feel a contraction coming on, right? What's your point? No, just come here a second, I want to try something with you. Bam! How does it feel, bitch? And the guy's just folds up on the floor, screaming his eyes out. Oh my God, I'm dying! I'm being ripped apart from the inside.
That's like chapter 1 of Ubers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Only that was more like involuntary.
Vomitorium. Joe, what about you? What terrifies you?
What terrifies me?
If anything.
What about waking up and seeing me standing over your body?
That would actually turn me on, Lee. I'd open my mouth.
Yeah, don't say anything like that around Joe. He really gets excited about that stuff.
I apologize.
What terrifies me? Let's say spiders. Spiders terrify me.
Oh,
yes,
spiders. A bit of an arachnophobe.
God-awful creatures.
Now, see, I can understand like spiders' main roles, and I can see how they're like really benefit, and how they can do good things and great things, and in books apparently they can do fantastic things, like in Charlotte's Web. But like recently there's been like an influx of spiders in the United Kingdom, or at least in my freaking house. Like I'll stand in the kitchen, I'll be there smoking. And usually, you might see a spider moving in the corner or something, and it's fine, it's a nice quaint image. But what I've been having recently is I'll be standing there smoking, and they'll crawl along the ceiling and drop down onto my head or my face, and I've been bit on my neck like multiple times, but unfortunately we don't have anything that sort of bad in the UK. We have something called like a false widow or something, which is like a relative of the Black Widow. And you hear, relative of the Black Widow, holy shit, I'm gonna die! But no, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't really do much. You don't get any of the necrotic flesh syndrome going on.
Sounds like you guys have some weak-ass spiders over there.
Yeah, no, our spiders are pussies, yo, but they're still ugly as shit and they're big as hell. I mean, I normally have like a...
Well, they're older.
I've got a book laid out in the kitchen with just like pages stuck together with like squished bodies, where it's been like, I'll be standing there and it'll drop down to face level and it'll be like, I'm gonna bite you, and I'm like, well... no, you're not. And I'll just shut the book and that's it. Game over, man.
See, I reject any good thing that people say about spiders outright. I mean, all right, so, they eat mosquitoes. They do this, they do that. Well, I can live without spiders. The scariest thing to me is not seeing a spider. It's when I see it and then I don't see it. That terrifies me.
What, ninja spiders? As in like catching a glimpse of a spider out of the corner of your eye and you look and it's not there, or?
Well, it didn't help that my wife told me once that The average human swallows half a dozen spiders in their lifetime.
More
So,
than that, you're supposed to swallow like at least 6 bugs a night when you sleep.
Yummy.
yeah, that you want to tell someone with arachnophobia, and then they'll duct tape their mouth shut and their nose all night.
Yeah.
Here's question number 3. Name something or someone you are willing to die for.
Joe, do you want to go for this one? Because my answer's, again, it's going to be my family.
I would probably have to say the same. Otherwise, there's really nothing else worth dying for except perhaps a cause or your nation or something like that.
Whenever I hear the words like "what are you willing to die for," I'm reminded of it was a poem of Dulce Decorum Est Perpetua Mori, which is it is sweet and fitting to die for the motherland.
Well, in the original War of the Worlds, I believe, the original TV or the movie, there was a scene where this priest started walking toward there. You know, it's like the most spiritual thing. He's like the representative of God and mortality. And as soon as he finishes the prayer, the alien ship goes zing, kills him. You know, and that guy died for nothing. Now here's another question. Number 4. What is your least favorite type of people?
Of what?
Your least favorite type of people.
People. I'd have to say that my least favorite type of people would have to be least favorite type. I'd have to say
People who hesitate.
yeah. I'd have to say people who write fucked up shit like Ubers.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I guess that makes me your nemesis then.
Arch nemesis.
For me, people who I hate, hate's a very strong word, but there can only be one kind of person, and that's those that benefit on the misery of others.
Now here's another question for you guys. Lee, I guess you go first. What writer, living or dead, would you like to spend an evening with?
I would really like to spend an evening with you guys. That'd be quite cool. That'd be pretty awesome. If not, I think Jim Butcher. I think Jim Butcher would be extraordinary to hang out with, just because of like the way he writes and his characters and his plot lines. I think it'd be a good laugh, you know, just to hang out with and chat to.
Oh yeah, knowing and asking him to play your wizard for us. I mean, be an asshole. We love it. You know.
Yeah.
Like, how about you, Joe?
I would probably have to say Lovecraft. There's something about him. He's such a pessimistic bastard, and at the same time he's so fucking hyper brilliant that I think spending the evening with him would actually be a real treat. Might be a bit of a somber treat, but a treat nonetheless.
Right. That would be awesome. Number 6, what do you consider the greatest challenge in life?
That's pretty. I think the most generic answer for that would be living. The hardest part of life is living it, going through each day. I mean, you hear about some people that get so fed up with everyday run of their life that they start looking for releases or more exciting avenues so they can, you know, try and get the most out of life. I have married the most insane woman I could find, and I'm going to stick by her because she makes every single day entertaining. I'd never know what's going to happen next. I mean, having kids as well, I mean, the things they come out with every single day, it makes life enjoyable. But I think that's definitely the hardest thing, like just getting by in life.
Yeah. Joe, what do you consider your greatest challenge in life?
Paying the bills.
That can be a monster challenge. Definitely.
Yes, it is. You go out there, you work, you bust your ass, you break your back, and at the end of the day, you collect your little handful of sixpence, and at the end of the week, it adds up to really nothing.
I had a massive heart attack 2 years ago, almost killed me. I'm disabled, so I can't work. I get this disability check once a month. When you're living hand to mouth, it is horrible. Now, when I was a brand new father, and Lee, I know exactly what you're talking about whenever you talk about family. Number 7, what weapon would you choose in the event of a zombie apocalypse?
An ideal weapon would be something of a silenced, like semi-automatic weapon. The only problem is obviously maintenance of the weapon as well as ammunition of the weapon. If that's not an issue, then that's fine. Crack on. Otherwise,
what
it's
about
going to have to
obtaining
be.
weapons?
Oh, well, exactly. If it's an obtainable, in the UK, it's a lot more difficult to get a firearm. You can get a crossbow easy enough, or it's possibly a shotgun, but you need a license for it. But you can't get a semi-automatic pistol or like rifle or anything of that variety. So probably.
Yeah, I would think that you'd have to be. I would think that you'd have to be responsible for your own ammo, to getting your own ammo and stuff. So.
Well, exactly, and that can be a very negative thing. I'd say possibly, like in the event of a zombie apocalypse, depending on what kind of zombie outbreak, it would probably be a crowbar. Because, I mean, a crowbar you can use to open things, you can use it to close things, you can use it to skewer things, you can use it to hook things. If zombies react to sound, then you want to be silent, plain and simply.
How about you, Joe?
My first instinct is to say something automatic, an AK-47, an M4, an M16, something like that. But with that, when you pull the trigger and you're shooting, 20 rounds a second, it wastes bullets and you have rounds going everywhere. I want something that I can easily use, something that will kill the most zombies, something that is relatively easy to maintain. I think my ideal weapon would probably be a shotgun. Because really all you have to do is point and pull the trigger, and anything standing in front of it, done.
That would be my first answer. Yeah.
You have to be very close, though. That's the only problem. I mean, same as the close combat weapons, but shotguns as well. It's obviously close quarters unless you put like a deer slug in it, in which case you could possibly get some range in there. But then you don't get the whole spread effect. I mean, one of the advantages of having a shotgun is that it can knock down en masse,
But then again, Lee, a shotgun, you get a little bit more distance than you do if you got a crowbar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know, but that's what I'm saying is that obviously shotguns would make a loud noise, which isn't always a good thing.
That's true. Yeah, it's sort of like weather. I mean, you can't find the perfect place. Another good thing about shotguns is that you can actually, if you've got shells, you can actually create the buckshot. You can do things. You know.
As long as you have
gunpowder, that helps. I read a story about a guy that took little tiny fishing weights and put them on fishing line and strung them out like pearls and fishing line, and then shoved it in a shotgun shell. And then when he fired the weapon, it would decapitate, amputate. It was horrific.
Well, did you see Resident Evil Afterlife, in which case Mila Jovovich customizes a shotgun and fills it with quarters?
Filled with quarters? Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was quite a cool aspect, in all fairness. But no, again, what it comes down to is obviously limited load capacity, which is fine, but also if you're in a situation where you're cornered in an alley and there's a shut door in front of you, you can blow the lock, but if you do that, the zombies can pile after you anyway, or, you know.
Well, this is going to lead into the next question. What would be your favorite way to die?
Favorite way to die?
Getting bit by a vampire. Turn me.
I think that my favorite way to die I wouldn't mind being obliterated in a nuclear detonation. Like if I were in prison, say I was going to be executed, and they said, okay, you can pick your poison. How do you want to die? Anyway, we'll do it. And I say, strap me to an A bomb and drop me, because that reminds me of Doctor Strangelove.
Yeah, Doctor Strangelove with Slim Pickens.
Yeah,
writing it down. Ground Zero's the place to be.
Now he had some balls. The dude he's dropped out of a plane on a nuclear warhead, and he's riding it like a fucking Bronco. I mean, that takes guts.
Well, you know why he was on it. You know why he was on it to begin with, don't you?
Huh?
Do you remember why he was on it to begin with?
Because the bay doors wouldn't open.
Yeah. Well, Lee, what would be your favorite way to die?
Favorite way to die, let's think. No, dying of an aneurysm mid-coitus with a beautiful woman. That'd be pretty cool. He's like, yeah. I'm coming, and I'm dead. That's it. Just lights out, game over.
Actually, I think even better than a nuclear bomb would be to die at sea in some way, shape, or form. I think I wouldn't mind going out that way, like sort of on the Titanic. Drowning. I really wouldn't want to drown, maybe freeze to death, but I think I could see died at sea on my gravestone and be happy with that.
So you just answered question number 1 and 8. That would be cool. Would you want to be buried at sea, Joe?
No. If my body is recovered, I think I'd want it to be interred on land.
So you'd want to die at sea, but you want to get brought to land. Okay.
Well, I mean, if they happen to find my body. If not,
that's a pretty harsh set of instructions. It's like, right, no, we can't leave him out here. Why? He demands to be buried in land.
But this is where he wanted to die. Quick, he's dying. Get him out on the river.
Yeah.
Bring him back.
So basically, would you like your ideal death? Would it be like waterboarding? Would that be it? You know. If he floats, he's a witch. If he drowns, he's innocent. Okay.
He's a newt.
If I could be waterboarded to death by Dick Cheney wearing the getup that the transsexual wore from Rocky Horror Picture Show, then I think I'll die a happy man.
Oh, I would love to be killed by Jack Bauer myself. Anyway, y'all don't know who Jack Bauer is, do you?
24.
Yeah, Kiefer Sutherland.
Yes.
24.
Yes, one of my favorite shows ever.
Actually, Lee, earlier you said you wanted to be bit by a vampire.
Yeah.
Kiefer Sutherland also played a vampire.
Lost Boys.
Yep, Lost Boys. So he can kill you as the vampire. Then go get Jay as the special agent.
Yeah, he can romance me by pinning me down and biting my neck. Oh, Team Kiefer Sutherland, yeah. Or and then as he pulls out his PT
Lost
to wait.
Boys is a little bit different than Twilight.
A little bit.
Now here's number 9. What would be your least favorite way to die?
Burning to death. I think that would be the most agonizing way to die, to slowly burn. Oh, I could do it.
I think it would be elephantitis of the nutsack. Where your balls just keep on getting bigger and bigger and bigger until eventually the strain on your body and mind's too much and you die. I think that would be a pretty bad way to go. Either that or a reverse urination. That could be quite bad. You pee inside of yourself and die. That could be bad. Or sodomy with like a flaming poker. That could also suck. The way that Vlad Tepes used to do by putting people on stakes, the way that he just let the body's weight like lower them onto it, like by being shoved up to the arse, that would be pretty bad.
Yes, that would be.
Yeah, that would be bad. That would be bad. Now here's the last one, and it's totally out of context. I'm probably going to change this because I couldn't think of anything else. But question number 10: define love.
Do you want me to go for this one first, Joe?
Yeah, you go ahead.
Right. In my opinion, love is the physical, sexual, and spiritual attraction to another being, another person. Hell, for some people, it's it's a vehicle, or it's a box of cotton wool. They just look at it and they're like, oh, baby, I love you so much, I just want to hold you tight. Just really fucking... I mean, they say that you can't choose like who you fall in love with. Like you can't choose what sexuality you are. When you're born, you can come out dancing show tunes, or you can just come out screaming. One of them. For me, love it's all about just finding that emotional connection with another person to share the good times and the bad times with, and to be there to comfort and console, as well as to enjoy their company. That's what love is to me.
To me, love is not hating someone and wanting to rip their head off and shit down their neck.
But what if that's a fetish of yours? What if you both love the same thing? You both enjoy doing the same activity? Hey Joe, when we go out tonight, let's go down to Dairy Queen and there's that really annoying guy. We can cut off his head and take turns crapping down his pipe. What do you reckon? Yeah, let's do it.
But that was the Dark Whisper questions there.